All right, today we're going to dive into Immutable X and kind of the future of where NFTs could be playing out with some big players in the marketplace. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. Let's dive in a little bit because there's a lot to talk about here around IMX, around Disney, VeVe, all these different platforms that really are starting to intermingle together. And it starts to appear as though we may have a roadmap that is starting to show up. This happened a lot with how we saw mobile develop with the iPhones. You could see these potential opportunities starting to form right before your eyes. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors, which is VeVe Finance. We've had them on the show before, and we've talked to their team quite a bit about their Cardano integration. But of course, if you are looking at a decentralized exchange, this one is one that is a good one to check out, token and NFT staking. They have this cool feature and technology called auto harvesting, which I would check out the video with their CEO because it was a really good explanation of how auto harvester worked. If you have a lot of Cardano or you're looking at going into staking Cardano, this is one of those that I definitely would lean in on. Another thing too that I really like is their roadmap. They've done a lot with really kind of launching. Q2 this year, they're going to launch their VeVe DEX. Their LMS launch and their on-chain governance will come out. And then, of course, you see what's happening right here in Q1 2022. This is going to be the token vaults, their release of the white label VeVe NFTs, and then the DEX audit, which is getting them set up. So I think that's a lot of cool stuff. They also have a really good array of, Cardano partners. And I think we're going to continue to see some pretty cool things with Cardano and VeVe Finance. So make sure and check them out. Just go to VeVe.io. All right, let's get into the news today because this is the big story, and that is GameStop and IMX. GameStop to launch NFT marketplace with Ethereum and Layer 2 Immutable X. And of course, when this news hit, we saw an immediate launch on the IMX token. It just seemed to have an unbelievable parabolic move. And I think that's going to be a common situation with IMX, especially in the coming projects as we continue to see more and more involvement here. So according to the news announcing on Thursday, GameStop said Immutable X powered NFT marketplace will launch later this year. The two companies have also set up a $100 million grant fund to support the developers who are going to launch their gaming NFT projects on the marketplace. I think that is a pretty good play in the sense that when you see all the developers out there, because this is the big issue, is everybody's kind of vying for the developers' attention. And I think the more we see on one, granting these developers some money to help them build these protocols, these projects, these dApps, et cetera, on these platforms, I think this is going to be a big application. Of course, the NFT component of Immutable X is really undeniable, I think, as we continue to see it grow. So I'm all in on that. This is something right here. This was kind of cool. Over on TokenTrove, you can now buy and sell in alternate currencies on TokenTrove, and of course that includes Immutable X. Just to give you an example about this, let's take a look at TokenTrove, and we'll see a real quick look here on Gods Unchained. And let's say, for instance, we want to go into this one right here. You'll see now, buy list. You can go in and select IMX. So there you go. This is kind of the element that I think we'll continue to see really blow up with these integrations really kind of going to the next level. So good stuff here. New Disney job posting shows growing interest of NFT sector. This, of course, was reported earlier this week. What does this have to have or do with the NFT space overall? I think we will see the convergence of NFTs from these titans like Disney over the next, I think this year in 2022, definitely in 23, I think we'll start to see some big things start to hit and be a very interesting opportunity. And I think it's going to be one of those scenarios that just absolutely takes. You think NFTs are hot right now. Wait a minute. It's getting ready to get, I think, overheated. Disney obtains a patent for an amusement park in the metaverse. This is more Disney news. And we've got a quick take on this on Disney itself, but also just from Squawk Box, where they were really kind of talking about what and where this direction was going. And I'll show you that clip here in a second. Let's go over to that tweet real quick. Let me jump out on this one right here. And we're going to play this for you.
And digital realities. I think there are two things that I like about this. One is I like Genie. I like the idea of a 360 Disney customer. You go in and they remind you when you walk in that, hey, don't forget you want to watch Eli and Peyton. You want to have dinner reservations as you had before at one of the different features. And David, let's just focus on this for a second. I genuinely think that the metaverse and Disney are made for each other. And I wonder what would have happened had the metaverse, had Mark Zuckerberg not stolen the thunder of the metaverse.
Should we take a listen to what Chapek had to say about it on last night
Why not?
in that interview that Julia did?
Why not do that?
Okay. Take a listen.
My vision is to use Disney Plus as the platform for the metaverse. I think it really blends our physical beings with our digital beings and creates a three-dimensional canvas, if you will, for our creative storytellers to paint so that we can create experiences that otherwise have been defined as it's a park experience or it's a movie experience or it's a book experience. I think those all come together without boundaries, without borders, without constraints, and our creatives are just biting at the bit to get into the Disney metaverse.
He's clearly giving a lot of thought to this already.
Well, look, Roblox has it without the characters you need, but people who've written.
All right, so you can kind of see where this is going. I think the play, and I think everybody has been watching this and probably sitting on the sidelines saying, hey, listen, this is going to happen. The likelihood of a metaverse next level is going to be real. And though we have yet to see it. Now, could it be Disney is the one that carries that through? That is a good possibility now when you think about the creative side of Disney, the amount of assets that they have in play, just the overall library. Things get real in the metaverse when there's real things that you can either one, experience and or utilize, or potentially do in terms of experiences, obviously within the NFT side, ownership. We're already seeing that kind of shift occur with VeVe. So with that, you look at this Bazinga article right here, NFT metaverse opportunity extraordinary for Disney. But here's the old CEO, Bob Iger, who cautions on the copyright issues with OpenSea. And I think this will be an issue that will happen with the scenario. Just as a side note for you guys, and in case you are on OpenSea, one thing is watch out for the scammers that are starting to impersonate certain influencers, etc. We have had our own scammers that actually set up Paul Barron Network on OpenSea and we're selling video clips. So be aware that that's not real. We are launching an NFT soon, I hope. But the plan was, and this one we were able to get into that. And I think that's what Iger is getting into, is there's going to have to be a lot more rigorous attention toward copyright protection in the NFT space, especially in these marketplaces, and that will also include Immutable X, but especially as we start to see explosion of growth on what is going to happen right there with OpenSea. Now, at the same time, former Disney Bob Iger also warns against NFTs, but also calls the future pretty much extraordinary because this is going to blow up. And you saw Chapek and what he was talking about. Again, the kind of the thought process behind where all of this starts to connect, to me, really gets into the licensing deals that they're doing, because this is where it brings in VeVe and Ecomi, and of course that all tying into IMX. You can kind of start to see the road starts to get painted here in a very big way. So if you are looking at both IMX, Ecomi, VeVe, and what potentially could be real in terms of collectibles and scenarios like that, plus metaverse with Disney, this starts to create a very interesting trifecta of companies that I think are really going to make a big difference in the coming years. So here's Chapek. Keys to Disney metaverse push is the database, which is interesting to me because he also just mentioned that clip that Disney Plus would be kind of the core entry point. And I think that will be a scenario from the aspect of the user interface. But what he's talking about here, last June, of course, we know that Bob Iger left. But the essence, really what he's talking about is really the customer personalized blending of physical and digital is the database. And that is where I think it gets very interesting, because remember, and he talks about it here, rich data for a long time from our parks. And this is where it gets really interesting. When you look at the amount of data that they're collecting from the park activities, from the online experiences, remember, that's a lot of throughput in real world life activities. That kind of data that starts to move into the metaverse, and maybe it's already seen the online experience. And think about how long they've had that data, because this is probably over a decade of real actionable and quantitative data that could easily be transitioned into a metaverse play. And in essence, think about your Disney, pass, or all your Disney connectivity, plus all of your NFTs, plus your park experiences. Maybe all that stuff starts to come together in one place, maybe in the metaverse, and the metaverse becomes a year-round opportunity. Now, we are going to break down sentiment data on both IMX and Ecomi. Before we get over to that, if you are looking to do some trading, one of the things that I would recommend, of course, is FTX. It's one of our partners of the show. Check out their mobile app. It's probably one of the best ones out there in terms of if you like the experience while you're on the run, this is a great product, and I like it. I definitely endorse it. It's one of those that I really love. The other aspect with FTX that I think is probably one of the bigger ones is the fact that their cost for trades are absolutely much lower. So that to me is one of the big values, because I'm always looking for deals. So anyway, I want to get to a poll also before we get started, and that is take a look at just kind of a comparison here. Let's jump to this poll. All right, should Disney buy VeVe? Yes, already halfway there, and the no, as you can see, already halfway there, wins out big time at 76%. So I think that is the point here, because you are seeing this evolution. This is the key too. You're going to see these land rushes and these evolutions of marketplaces being developed. So IMX, big play. Ecomi, big play. Opportunity on VeVe. If you're a collector, you've got to be on VeVe, and of course the tie-in of what that might be. Now, if we're talking about things that are maybe over your head right now, that you're new to the channel, make sure and hit the like button, hit subscribe, because this is going to be your entry point into what I think is going to be the masses coming into the NFT space. Meaning, your kids are going to want you to go into the metaverse much like they want you to go to the park. Now, there will be digital experiences there that will start to really invade in the households, and especially if they use it through Disney Plus. But the whole point is that you've got a potential onslaught of NFT activity coming very soon, I think, from some very big players. All right, I want to look at a couple of projects here. And one of them was Ecomi. And just as a reminder, this is our CPI. This is the data tool that we use on an ongoing basis. If you want to get access to it, just click the link below. You can go in and check that out. But Ecomi is the one I want to take a look at. The reason being is Ecomi made it into our top 20. They were in our 11 through 20 list right here. So you can see Ecomi holding out at 73.19 and 71.12. This was earlier in the week when we pulled that score. But the point is that this data set tells us and gave us some insights to what Ecomi's price action was going to be. And when you look at what's happening within the Ecomi chart, I want to jump over to that one. Same kind of scenario. So what we were seeing, and this is kind of cool too, because there's a couple of things here that were really interesting. This was a data poll. Let's go back all the way here to January 10th. So we had pulled a 70. Sentiment was rising, and of course right there is our CPI data that's overlaid on that. So we were calling this. A 72 comes in, and then that of course tells us we were seeing right here 65.09 versus a 68. So that's going to tell me we're going to start to see a little bit of a lull, which we did. And then right down here we pulled another one on this green candle on the 25th of January at 72.09 with a 71.77. Now amplification is flying again, and boom, Ecomi takes another rise. And of course, this was kind of, I think, more so on what we're seeing with action in the marketplace around the whole aspect of connectivity to what we would see with GameStop, IMX, kind of that trifecta of things that are happening. Right here, though, we've pulled our most recent one, which is right here on February 3rd, and sentiment is a little bit softer, but sentiment is up, but AMP is, as I said, is a little softer at 69.52. Sentiment is setting at 73.0. So you got a little bit rise right here on sentiment from a 72 to a 73. A little bit softness right here from a 71 to a 69. This tells me we're going to see a little bit of sideways action right here on Ecomi. But the good thing is sentiment is rising. So what does that tell me? That usually means long-term growth in these projects like this. Another one that I want to look at, not quite as deep, is IMX. And we're going to give you guys, let me go to the, let's just hold on right there. And we'll go in here because the last one we pulled for IMX, Jan 24th, sentiment was holding at 72.04 and a 68. Up quite a bit here from what we had pulled right there on January 8th for the month of IMX, 71.29 and a 65.37, which did in fact give us this downward trend. This 72 gave us some indication down here when we look at historical. Oh, wait a minute, this is going to actually see some climb, because you had climb in both sentiment and amplification at 68.44, and essentially that's what happened right here with, boom, IMX. And of course, this right here, you can't really count on those, because that, of course, is the issue with GameStop. That's the bump that GameStop would hit on it. But the whole point is that we're getting good measurements right here within this. Other aspects that I want to really look at around VeVe is these applications that are starting to show the databases of the collectibles themselves. And this is one that we've just started using and looking at, is Ecomi Wiki. And this is a good example of one that we picked out that we like. It's a target that we think is going to be a big one, which is the Ecto-1 Interactive. This is one of 6. You can kind of see it right now, but you can look at price action right here. So the floor price is the pink right there. The blue is the total number of listings that are on the marketplace. And then the previously sold right here is what we're looking at in the yellow. So you can kind of see a bunch of them right there, sold right there, like that one for $2,400 and so on. It's a good tool. If you are a big collector, this might be something you want to utilize. One thing that we're starting to play with is applying sentiment data over this and taking a look at how that plays out. So an example was this one right here. This was a recent drop that just landed this week, and it was Torch Dragon. And if you look at, it's an uncommon, it's over there on the left on the green, that's an uncommon. And we pulled sentiment right there on the day at 74.05. And then just a little bit later, we pulled a 75.15. And then boom, right here towards the end of the day, you pull a 72.09. So it's showing some movement here. The question I have is going to be whether or not the collectibles are so volatile in these marketplaces. I think we'll need some stability to be able to start looking at potentially predictive aspects of whether or not a project will start to go vertical on what we will see in the VeVe marketplace. So that is an interesting aspect. So I'm kind of interested to see if you guys like VeVe in general from a collectible standpoint. Are you more interested in just Ecomi because it's the fuel to this whole engine? Or are you looking at the IMX angle on this more from an NFT marketplace standpoint? I'm kind of curious of what direction you're leaning. Maybe you're saying, no, this is all perfect because it's all coming together as one. You just need Disney fuel and you got a rocket ship to the moon, as they say, as the NFT OGs say. All right, so let's get into, of course, the wrap up today. If you're listening in over on the podcast right now, best thing to do is jump over here to the YouTube channel. This is the place to catch it all. And it's also where we do a lot of these breakdowns. You can join the Diamond Circle. You get free access to a lot of our drops in information. We also put you in our list for our giveaways, which is coming up one next week. We're going to do the official launch of the Crypto Power Index. You can actually get access to the Crypto Power Index now, so it's pretty cheap. It's like 29 bucks a month. If you want to go monthly, you can click our link below and get access to things like what we just showed you there on IMX and on Ecomi. All right, if you want to reach me, it's out on Twitter. It's @PaulBaron. I'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.